All right, welcome everybody to the first broadcast from my new residence. I have a special guest here today. He goes by the moniker 11111133 online. It used to be 11111170. He has a channel. He has deleted his videos and he will be bringing new content, but I'm gonna let him talk more about that. He is I talked to him the other day. I've been talking to him for a couple of months now. I was introduced to him by my other great friend, Trent No Spoons Coat. And I told him the other day that it is very rarely am I impressed or do I admire anyone or look up to anyone, but his intellect and his insight on life and the ways that he has helped me to look inside of myself and not outside of myself and look at things in a totally different way has channeled my mind. So I'm eternally grateful to him. And that is my introduction, but I will now let him introduce himself to y'all and then we will get started with this live stream.
My turn. Right. Hello, Jacob. Guys, my name's Danny Lee Benson. That's the name the world gave me. I'm ex-British military, served my 22 years, got out, did what they call the high-risk security industry, anti-piracy work for 5 years, and now I used to build wind turbines, lost my job there, the contract's dried up, and I'm currently unemployed for a short period of time, and I start my new job next year, January the 7th. I'm down to earth, I'm not polished, and I say it how it is. There you go. So, Jacob, let's get the ball rolling, mate. I hate introductions.
All right. So the first thing that we want to talk about was the divine feminine, explaining exactly what that is to everyone out there.
Right. The MGTOW movement is, bollocks movement, nonsense. But let's say it how it is. Okay. Men going their own way. Okay. It's very interesting, very philosophical, very introspective. But there's a lot of these guys that are conscious to the manipulations of society, the roles that people are playing out, the programming, and they're breaking out of that. And the misconception that is foisted upon us and stuffed down our throats by the media is the divine feminine, that all women are divine and all the rest of it. Well, most of the guys know this. They're no more, females are not divine. They are just as divine as men. We are equals, but this is the complete misunderstanding. The divine feminine is referred to in all the religious scriptures. Now, I'm not religious, can't stand it, but it's referred to in all the religious scriptures. And the divine feminine is your subconscious mind. But if your subconscious mind is not entered by you, like Adam entering Eve, it's not the sex act. Okay, when Adam, which is the ego, the intellect, enters Eve, that is the divine feminine. Then the two work together. They become a pair. That's the marriage. Okay, throughout the world, I've got some names here. The divine feminine in India, Shakti, or in other cultures, Diana, Aphrodite, Inanna, Isis. The Catholic traditions is Mary. In Christianity, Holy Spirit or the Holy Ghost. That's the divine feminine, and it's internal. It's not external. And this knowledge it's not just for men. It's for females as well, because this transcends your physical manifestation on this physical plane. It's got nothing to do with your genitalia. But humans are given a choice because we're sentient beings. You can learn, overcome your physical manifestation and ascend consciously, or you can remain unconscious and perish. It's that simple. So the divine feminine is the feminine subconscious mind. Now, it's just an aspect. It's like the yin and yang, darkness and light, black and white, good and evil. It's part of this reality, the duality of life. It's an aspect, and it's symbolized. The divine feminine is symbolized as the pyramid or the triangle pointing down, and Angela Merkel is always doing this, the divine feminine, and the male aspect is pointing up, and you put the two together and you get the Star of David, and this is symbolic of the two becoming one. And that's what it's all about. It's all symbolism. It's everywhere. Corporate organizations, they display it. Colors, red and blue. Red being the divine feminine, and blue being the masculine, the ego, the intellect. And when the two come together, they become purple, royal purple. And the Bible, and not just the Bible, other books, the Bhagavad Gita, the Vedic texts, they all relate to the same sort of thing, but in different ways. And it's the marriage of the minds. Okay, in the Bible, you got Sarah and Abraham, and God said to Abraham, "You're going to have a child," and they laughed at God. It's symbolic. It's allegory. But anyway, Abraham went into Sarah and they had a child. Now, when you understand that cerebrum, the brain is called the cerebrum, cerebrum. And they had a child, and that's the secretion, the sacred secretion, which goes down. The sacred secretion is Jesus Christ. Christ comes from the Greek word Christos, or Christol, which means Christ oil. And the people that experience this, they're drunk. They're drunk on love. They're drunk on, because it affects their consciousness. They see everything completely differently. And this is also a part of the enlightenment. And it also has to do with the body. It's electromagnetic, the nervous system. It's very, very, very broad subject. And it's all in the books. It's all there. So the divine feminine is on the right-hand side. This is why Jesus told the fishermen to cast the net on the right-hand side. It's got nothing to do with our sisters, but society has built them up as the divine feminine, and the men is to serve, and it's all wrong. It's all wrong. It's just a mess. It's Babylonian, and the word Babel is Hebrew. It means confusion. You've only got to open your fucking window and look outside, and you can see the confusion. But of course, the window in your mind, the third eye, the pineal gland, if you open that, there is no confusion.
So what is the key to opening up the pineal gland? What are some things that people can practically do in their lives?
That's a good question. That's a good question, Jacob. Yeah. For some people, it will open naturally. I'm not God. I don't, everybody's house, everybody's temple, everybody's church, which is the body you live in. It's not a building made by hands. Everybody's different, and everybody's an individual. It's an individual path. But my experience and what I've read in the texts, and you can find all this stuff in the Old Testament and the New Testament. You've got to walk away from religion, because if you're eating religious material, you'll never reach higher consciousness, because religion comes from the word religare. It means to bind. So if you're being bound, then you're not being made free. Okay, because they teach you a dogma, which stifles the mind, stifles consciousness, and it keeps you in the left brain, which is the intellect and the ego. Walk away from politics, because if you're political and you're serving the political system, then you're giving up your own God-given sovereignty. And the same can be said for patriotism. If you're a flag-waving patriot, then you're just supporting the illusion. Countries, it's an illusion. When birds migrate, they don't stop at the border of Mexico and America to get to get checked. No, it's just ridiculous. It's a human illusion, and you've got to get beyond all that stuff. You've got to, and this is what's referred to as cleaning your house. It's what the Jews do. They get rid of all the yeast, and all the yeast is the crap that swells up, and makes you believe in. It's just a nonsense. So you clean your house, you get rid of all that, and stop eating dead flesh. It makes your body acidic, and it causes inflammation of the cells, increased mucus, and when the body's acidic, the secretion from the cerebrum is killed. So it never comes back up, because the story of Jesus, he goes down into hell, and then after 2.5 days, 3 days, he comes back up, and then he goes to meet his Father in heaven. Heaven's your brain. So if your body's acidic from the consumption of dead flesh, then it won't ascend. This is just look at it logically. I mean, if you got some pork and you left it in the sun for 12 hours and the temperature was, let's say, 37 degrees, that pork's going to be stinking, but your core temperature of your body is 37, 38 degrees. And if you eat pork, it's inside you fermenting and rotting for a minimum of 12 hours. So just using your own common sense, you can understand the physiological effects of that on the body. It's just not good. That's why if you eat meat and fat, it's repulsive. It stinks. And we're not designed to eat meat. That's a physiological fact. But people need to do their research. They need to own this information themselves. So, we've got YouTube. You research what doctors are saying, or gurus, if you wish, but do your research, make yourself clever. Use your own consciousness to discern truth, learn to discern, and then as you take charge of your consciousness, you will then start to respond appropriately and start to make the correct decisions. Alcohol makes people mindless, but you could trace it back. I think one of the Catholic leaders hundreds of years ago, or thousands of years ago, said, give them beer and circuses. Well, yeah, we've got plenty of beer, lots of fucking circuses. You've only got to look at politics for that. Sports, it's all a circus, and everyone's getting blind drunk and enjoying the circus, but killing the Christ. Same as Christmas, which comes up in a few weeks. Was it 2 weeks, 3 weeks? Christmas. Christmas literally means, mass means death. So Christ, mass death. And it's a celebration of the death of Christ. And everyone eats meat and they all drink and be merry. And they're actually killing the Christ secretion in their bodies. It's a form of mockery. It's all mockery. But I mentioned it a moment ago. The body's nervous system is electromagnetic. Your brain is electromagnetic. Your brain is the Christmas tree. This is why in Jeremiah he says, why do you cut down these trees and decorate it? And you bow before it, but it can't speak. It doesn't do anything. But your brain, if you imagine all the electrical impulses firing off, if you could see it, it would look, we have that expression. Oh, I had this idea and my brain lit up like a fucking Christmas tree, Cool, that's what it's about. But instead we're bowing down to things that are physical. It's just a nonsense when we should be looking within. And this is why that character Jesus said to the Pharisees and the scribes, he berated them. He couldn't stand them. He hated them. He said, called them snakes, vipers, a den of thieves. You do not go in yourselves, and you prevent others that would from going in themselves as well. And it's all via meditation. So meditate, Adam goes into Eve, the divine feminine. Clean your house, get that electromagnetic energy which is currently resting in the sacral regions, in Sodom and Gomorrah, in hell, where the fires of desire burn eternally. But when you starve that area, the energy, the snake, what the Indians call the kundalini, that electromagnetic energy then rises up the spine, the 33 vertebrae, and enters into the brain. And that is part of the enlightenment process. 33 was the age of the death of Jesus, and he was crucified on a cross. The cross is your body. The Bible is a book about human psychology, human physiology, and astrology, and it's all about you, the individual. It's so if you're reading about the book of Moses, you're Moses. If you're reading about Noah, you're Noah. It's very clever,
Very
very
clever.
very clever. You know, and but what's happened, you see, is that religion has become a gatekeeper to the truth, and they've had to reveal it to a degree, but they will never reveal the allegory or the esoterics, because if they do, the entire system falls down.
Yeah.
The Babylonian system, because politics and religion go hand in hand. You know, they're both thick as thieves, the two of them. But when people en masse start to wake up and start to respond by not eating meat, they don't drink alcohol anymore, and they walk away from Babylon. And this is internal. And when it happens internally, it will manifest externally. As above, so below. As within, so without. And these are Masonic teachings. But even in the Masons, you know, the Masonic brotherhoods, there are. I'm not a Mason or anything like that, but I do know this, is that people that are conscious enough to understand and embrace and respond to the higher truths of the scriptures will be given the truth, and they will be taught. They are the so-called initiates. But the others that are not conscious enough to understand, they're just part of the club, you know, to fund it. You know, so the real work is going on behind the scenes. Like Walt Disney, you know, he was initiated. He knew the truth. You know, some of the films that come out of these places, Snow White and the Seven Dwarfs. The Seven Dwarfs is the chakras, the endocrine system, the 7 glands in the human body, where this electromagnetic energy forms in nervous ganglia. You know, and he understood that, and the energy rises up, and the prince, which is you, kisses, mwah, you know, Sleeping Beauty, which is your subconscious mind. So even in our own folklore, yeah, we all know the story, but no cunt understands it. And that's the tragedy, because it's all about consciousness. So just look, just by talking with you, Jacob, and having these simple chats on Facebook, I mean, I don't know, you've got 800 odd subscribers. You know, if one person gets it and then he does a video and passes it on, so you've got this, you know, knock-on effect. And it's like a chain reaction. Or, you know, when you reach critical mass, you only need 10% of the water to reach 100 degrees before all the water starts dancing. We don't need to reach everybody. You just need to reach a point of critical mass. You know, so talking about these sort of things, you know, sensibly, and just saying it how it is without getting caught up in religious dogma of like, yeah, but God's name is Yahweh, or God's name is Yahweh, or Jehovah, because then you're just caught in the duality and just go round and round in circles. And when you're meditating, if you get to touch, just a little touch, okay, of the expansiveness of the unified field of consciousness, it has no name. It simply is, as introduced to Moses, Ahaya Asha Ahaya. I am that I am. That's it. And that's what we should, and that's where we all come from. And that's what we should aspire to get back to. Because when you achieve that, you've overcome your subconscious mind.
All right, I want to talk about see some stuff I pulled up on my phone. What propelled you to go in this direction? What was the thing in your life that propelled you to go there?
Yeah, good question. This right. My journey started a long time ago, 16, 17 years ago, but a lot of it wasn't conscious. The mistake we make is that we think the ego, the intellect, is in charge, but it isn't. There is a higher state of consciousness which steers you and guides you. If you're questioning things, like I was in the military for a long time, and I would question the morality of the military, I'd question what I was doing, and I knew it was wrong. And you start to see through the lies and everything. My boss got killed in Iraq. I'll cut the story short. I was asked to write something for his repatriation ceremony, so I made a quick note, and then I had to submit the note. And a religious leader in the British military, a colonel, he was a pastor, Catholic faith. He read it and said, "No, you can't read that. It has to be from the Bible." And I protested, saying, "I'm not religious." And he said, "It's not about religion, it's about protocol." And I said, "Well, the boss wasn't religious either." And he said, "Well, it doesn't matter. He's paid the ultimate sacrifice." And so I asked him the question, the ultimate sacrifice for who and for what? And that was back in 2006. So when you're stood there in Iraq and you've got all your gear on and you're ready to go out, you're thinking to yourself, what am I doing this for? Sacrificing for who and for what? Who's being sacrificed? Who am I sacrificing to? And then the ball started rolling. And it's just a series of simple questions. And it's all led by consciousness. And as you start to walk the walk, you become more and more conscious. And you start to ask simple questions, and more answers come.
Okay. How should a person meditate? Is there a proper way to meditate for somebody to get maximum benefit from it?
But meditation is difficult.
Very difficult.
Because the ego always wants to be told what to do and how to do things. And the secret is that there is no way to do meditation, because meditation is not about doing anything, because that's the problem. We're not human beings, we're human doings. All you need to do is just be. So meditate. The room has to be dark. When Noah was told to build the ark, he was told to build it and to cover it with pitch inside and out, and then to go in the ark. So if it's covered in pitch inside and out and he goes inside the ark, then it's dark. So that's, allegory for going to a dark place. And even Jesus said, go into your, I think it was your closet,
Yeah.
or into your secret place. And your secret place is your own mind. It's nothing to do with the physical reality. So the room's dark. Okay, and the reason it has to be dark is because the pineal gland starts to release substance, melatonin or serotonin. I forget which, but this is pivotal in the meditation process. So it has to be dark. Be comfortable. And then just simply be. Now there are ways to help people get into the act of meditation. You can, on YouTube, download binaural beats, 4 hertz, which brings the brain into theta wave. And you can also do mantras, because if you're repeating a mantra like Om Namah Shivaya, that's a Hindu mantra. It keeps the ego busy, so the ego goes quiet. And what you're trying to do is repentance. Repent 5, your 5 senses. So you're overcoming your 5 senses by going within, and eventually your consciousness will step back from the physical reality, and you might experience a physical shift in your consciousness. And that's the act of meditation. And I would encourage people to do it, but don't bust your balls. Just like everything in life, baby steps. Just go into a dark room, turn the lights out, get comfortable, lie down on the floor if necessary, sit. Or sit. You don't have to put your legs in those crazy positions like the yoga people do. There's nothing wrong with that. You don't have to. The instruction in the Old Testament is simply be still and know that I am God. And so it's just about being. Okay, you can focus on your breathing, and eventually you will experience that consciousness shift. How could I describe it to you? It's like being pulled back slightly, like a conscious movement. It's quite bizarre to describe, because these things are not physical. It's all spiritual. It's all about consciousness. You might meditate for, you think, 5 minutes, and then you'll come out of it and you'll look at the clock and you'll see that 25 minutes has passed. Or I've done it and I thought, 10 minutes, and I've come out of it and I've looked and it's been an hour. So your ability to recognize, the passage of time is gone. And then you will see, you might experience flashes of light, but you're in a dark room and your eyes are closed. So where is this light coming from? Well, it's your pineal gland, and it's picking up, science calls them photons. Photons is hotly contested. I won't get into that at the moment. It's a bit complex, but photons don't exist. It's a scientific misconception. But you'll experience a flash of light, and science calls these particles, they're not even particles, but it calls them messenger particles. And if you refer to the biblical text, it says, the angels of light. And you look at the word angel, it comes from the Greek word angelos, and angelos means messenger. So when you're in a state of meditation, you're getting these flashes of light, then it's messages. Something's coming in. Now, the funny thing is that odd character called Jesus said, don't let the left hand know what the right hand is doing. He's not talking about these hands, because, come on, religious people, don't let the left hand, which is just, it's just stupid. It's pants. The left hand, which is your ego, won't know what your subconscious mind is doing, because your subconscious mind, you've gone into her. She is now divine, and she will guide you, and you will have, how do I put this? You will have synchronicities in your life. You'll have coincidences, and you'll make realizations, and it's an internal thing. And then you'll try to explain it to somebody else, and there are no words. You have to do this yourself. It's an individual path.
Gotcha. Hey, what else I wanted to talk about was like what exactly the ego is and how you can use it to your advantage.
Well, the ego is a steering wheel. It's a rudder. The world's an interesting place, man. It's difficult to navigate. But the problem that we've got is that, particularly in the Western world, which now has spread throughout most of the world, is that we've become left-brain thinkers. We do everything with the intellect and the ego, and we think we can dominate everything. Like the governments are always promising safety and security and peace in our time, and they can never deliver, because that's left-brain thinking. Until the left brain subdues the subconscious mind and makes it divine, they will never, ever subdue this world. So it's but because the ego is it's on it thinks it's on its own. So it's been left to its own devices, like a steering wheel in a car, but nobody's holding the wheel. So the car is going down the freeway, it's just start bumping off things, and that's what the ego does. We've only got to look at our own lives and just reflect. Oh, fuck me, man! A few years ago I did that. What a cunt! We've all had these experiences but when you realize there is a higher self, a higher aspect, and that the ego is not in control. The ego is the steering wheel. The ego needs to let go, and then realize that there is a higher consciousness that is actually steering the wheel, which is the ego. And if that analogy makes sense, there was a comment that Jesus said, my burden is light. Look, when you start to understand this stuff and you start to live it, right, your ego is then in kind of like along for the ride, because your higher conscious mind is making things happen. It brings people together. It allows things to unfold, and you're kind of, you're still the steering wheel. You still have free will. You can say, no, I don't want to go that way. Just like Jonah did when God said to him, go to Nineveh. And Jonah said, fuck that. And he got on a ship and tried to run away. So God made his life difficult, and then the And then the people on the boat threw him overboard, and he got swallowed by a fish. I mean, the whole story is allegory for meditation, by the way.
Yeah.
But he, it's about letting go and allowing the divine or the higher consciousness to take control and to show you things. And this is, my burden is light. So it's quite complex. It's very difficult to explain. I'm not trying to sell anything.
I got you.
I don't know how many people are going to listen to this. I really don't. But it isn't for everybody. It's for those with ears to hear and eyes to see. But as time progresses, like I said, we only need 10%, and then the rest will start to pay attention, because 10%, 1 in 10. That's leadership. It's people saying, "No, this way, guys. You need to go east, not west."
So what is sin? What exactly is sin?
Sin is a fantastic question because it's so misunderstood. Today, sin is, as we all know this, and it comes from church. Oh, I'm a sinner. I drink too much alcohol. I'm a sinner. That's part of it. But they use it to coerce people, to shame people. MGTOW understand that very well. Shame tactics and all the rest of the shit. Sin comes from the word shin, which is 6 in Hebrew. And it refers to the endocrine system, the ganglia points, or what the Indians called the chakras. And there's 7 of them. Sin basically means missing the mark. So what's the mark? That's the mark, the third eye. If you miss the mark, then you are in sin. So this is why meditation and overcoming, alcohol, too much sex, throwing your seed on the floor, wasting your life energy, all these things. That's what the parable of the prodigal son. He goes away and he parties, but in the end, he's got no money left. He's got no energy left, and he's eating with the pigs. Well, the pigs are the religious people. And then the son wakes up and says, "Fuck that," and goes back home. In other words, he meditates and goes back into himself. So sin is literally missing the mark. It's in the book of Revelation, which lots of people have read, but few people understand, is they will be marked. The beast they will be marked in their forehead and the right hand. If your 7th gland, the pineal gland, is not activated, then you have not reached higher consciousness. Then you will be a beast. Okay, because when your pineal gland is activated, then your right hand, not the physical hand, but the right hand of your brain, the Eve, will be activated. So it's basically saying those people that have not overcome, they have not reached the mark, will carry the mark of the beast, which is a non-activated pineal gland and a desolate waste of the right hand hemisphere. And that's the mark of the beast. It's not a microchip or anything, it wouldn't surprise me if they try and give us microchips and stuff, because that's just another distraction to lead you away from the truth that's within.
Yeah.
Everything's a distraction. So, but it's the right hand and the non-activated pineal gland, and that's it.
So I know one time that you said everybody walking around the world is actually Jesus, just parading and acting like someone else. You want to explain what that means to people?
Yeah, I use that saying quite a lot. Everyone's Jesus pretending to be somebody else. That everybody, as far as I'm aware, has the ability to overcome, but many choose not to. And the very word persona literally means mask. So a person is a mask. Your ego is what you've learned. If why are you a Christian? Oh, because I was born in Texas. We're all Christians in Texas. Why are you a Muslim? Well, because I was born in Mecca. That's not a choice. That's something you've inherited. It's your tradition that you've inherited and then learned by rote. That's not you. It's it's just clothes. It's just something to put on. You know, it's you know a ego.
Oh, experiencing some technical difficulties. All right, you back. Go ahead.
Oh, what happened? Did you get that or not?
No, go ahead. Say it again. It cut out for a second. Must be experiencing some technical difficulties on his side. Bear with us.
My side,
Yeah.
my side or your side, Jacob?
It seems like my side's running pretty good. I don't know. I got the Wi-Fi over here, so I don't know. Go ahead. You can try. You look like you're good now.
Yeah, okay. Yeah, the ego, if it thinks it runs the show, is evil because it's the false image in the temple, and the false image gets chucked out of the temple. That's what the Book of Revelation is all about. You know, so and there will be wailing and gnashing of teeth. Yeah, I hope that's a good explanation. I hope I didn't lose it all.
Definitely. So I got a personal question I want to ask you. What is love? What in your opinion, what is love?
Fucking hell. How many people have
Oh, I can't see you. Cutting out. Technical difficulties. I don't know what's going on. Oh. What's up, D? You still there?
instinctual, hormonally driven instinct.
Can you see me on your side? Am I clear on your side?
No.
I don't know.
Yeah, I can. I don't think love. I don't think love exists in this physical reality.
All right.
I think it's tainted love.
Tainted love.
Yeah, it's tainted love because it comes with it comes with
Conditions.
conditions. You've got to do this. You got to do that. You've got no free will. You've got obligations. You've got there are expectations, and you can't fulfill expectations for other people.
Never.
And if you try, you're a slave. And what's the point?
Yeah. I agree. I agree with that 100%. I think something else I had on here was what are your views on MGTOW and the red pill? What do you think about it?
Right, Jacob, give me 30 seconds.
Go ahead, do
Give
your
me
thing, bro.
30 seconds. I've just got to do something.
Technical. The shave.
Yep, sorry about that, dude.
Go ahead, do your thing, bro.
I had to sort something out. What are my views on MGTOW and red pill? Right, MGTOW. It's smart people in MGTOW. It's not about needling females. It's about the system. It's about the injustice of the system. Females have been programmed as well, and so have men. But MGTOW men are breaking out of the programming. They're leaving the plantation. When enough men do that, then women will leave the plantation as well. So it's a leadership thing. But it isn't about leading a group. I don't want to lead a group. I want nothing to do with leading. I want people to enable themselves. You know, you are your own master, and that's what MGTOW's about. All this levels are level 1 MGTOW. That's a fucking load of shit. You know, those people, MGTOW, the people that walk around saying that, go fuck yourselves. And people that take money as well. Listen,
Yeah.
if you're taking money for truth, then you're a cunt.
Yeah, exactly.
So none of that washes me with me either. So that part of it, you know, and the red pill is about waking up. To, you know something's wrong. You don't know what it is. You're trying to put your finger on it, but it's bigger than MGTOW. It's a lot bigger than that. Yeah, it's this entire physical reality is wrong. It's wrong. Yeah, the duality, you know, and overcoming. That's what it's about, overcoming the duality. But it's all going to change. It's just a question of time. But but MGTOW is a manifestation of people becoming conscious enough to see the problems. I was listening to a guy earlier on. What's he called? He calls himself Cointel or something. This is MGTOW content, but he doesn't particularly, he's very eloquent, very clever, and there's lots of guys like that. There's another one, very interesting character, a lot of philosophy, deep thinkers. But it's not all about the left mind. It's not all about the intellect. We've got to overcome the intellect by going into our own divine feminine mind, and that's what this is all about. And this is how you transcend this reality, by raising your own consciousness. And that's the meaning of life. That's the entire point of life. It's about transcending. It's about overcoming. It isn't about pussy. It isn't about alcohol, drugs, fast cars, or any of that shit. Those are just distractions, to keep you chained to the rhythm, as Katy Perry puts it in her song. I hope that answers your question. How my
Yep.
views?
Yep. So do you see that there's impending doom on the horizon? You want to talk about that?
No, not particularly. Impending doom? No. Great change. Great change. Look, there's a group of scientists. They call themselves the Thunderbolts Project, and they've got a channel on YouTube. I'd encourage people to go and look at what these scientists are saying now, because mainstream science is bullshit. A lot of it's garbage. I think people are waking up to that as well. But these guys are saying something completely different. Look at the craters on the moon, and then go to your car and look at the spot welds on your car. When they spot weld something,
Mm-hmm.
and look at the welds. Those ain't craters on the moon. That's the plasma discharge. And this happens every 25,900 odd years. And everything gets reset. Okay, and we are fast approaching a reset. NASA discovered an asteroid in 2004. It went largely unnoticed because of the tsunamis that happened then. But the NASA called it MN 2004, and they named it Apophis. And Apophis means a goddess of destruction. And it's April the 23rd, 2029, but it doesn't go past the Earth. It actually hits the Earth, and it sets off earthquakes magnitude 12, enough to flatten mountains and shift continental plates. So that's incoming. It's but that's alluded to as well in the prophecies, in the books of Revelation, because the cast out of heaven for those that overcome. But as above, so below. So as above is referring to the spiritual realm, So in your spiritual consciousness, your ego, which is alluded to as Satan, because Satan, all it means is the opponent, because the ego, but he gets thrown out of heaven, which is your consciousness. But as above, so below. So whatever happens in here will manifest in the physical, and that's where Apophis plays its part. And the mid-tribulation point, the mid-tribulation is the last 7 years, because the number 7 is replete through the Bible, and 7 is indicative of completion. And so the midpoints, so the middle of tribulation is April the 13th, 2029. So you add 3.5 years forward and 3.5 years back, and then you can work out the last 7 years. So the war starts in the Middle East. It goes mad out. It goes mad down there. It starts in the year 2026. It'll go nuclear. The Israelis have got 300 or 400 nuclear weapons. They just wipe out the Arab world. 1.5 billion people dead. And you've got all the nuclear shit in the air. That's just going to poison all the water, and it just goes downhill from there. And that's those prophecies are in the book.
Mm-hmm.
Now there are people out there that are saying, no, it's going to be great change. It's going to be peace.
Well, there's going to be great change.
I'm not promising. Yeah, there are guys out there doing some good work, about the sacred secretion from the brain and doing some good stuff. But they're saying there's going to be peace and security. There isn't. The only peace and security is within. It's not external to you. So if you're looking or professing that there's going to be peace and security in the physical world, then you're a liar. You're not getting it. You're failing to understand. This is why that weird character, Jesus said, do not love the world or anything in it, because you're not of it. So you see, it's going to happen nevertheless, because it has to. You've got to get rid of the junk. But if you're gonna make an omelette, you got to crack some eggs. And when you're cracking eggs, well, that's a bad one. You put that away. And and if you look at the way the world stage is set up, because the world is a stage, it's a big show, and you can see the way the world is maneuvering, power play. Stop looking at your countries. Don't look at. I live in Germany, and everyone's obsessed with Germany, and I've got Polish colleagues, and they're obsessed with Poland. And I've got English colleagues, they're obsessed with England. No, you've got to look at the globe. You know, look at what's the whole of humanity doing? Which way is it going? What direction is it going? And we can all see it. We can all see that it's all going towards the Middle East. This mayhem.
What about the 33 vertebrae being Jacob's ladder?
Yeah, it is. Your 33 vertebrae. Well, first of all, Jacob. His name is Yakub. It means him that digs his heels in, and he lay down to sleep, or actually meditate. He put his head on the stone. Now the stone is the sacrum. It's in your hip. It's 5 bones that are fused together. And he looked up and he saw the ladder going to heaven, and he saw the angels going up. Well, inside the vertebrae of your spine is the spinal column, the spinal cord. And this is where the nerve impulses go up and down, the angels traveling up and down. And of course, the serpent going into the Garden of Eden is also your spinal cord, but it's also the electromagnetic energy that travels, Kundalini, moving. It's allegory, it's symbolic speech that's thousands and thousands of years old. But now in the 21st century, we have the knowledge to understand these things and to see that it's simply allegory, and it's full, but with very, very instructions, and understanding. And that's but he went upstairs and he right. So and he overcame, but God put his hip out, because there are people that say, "Oh, but God dislocated Jacob's hip." What kind of father would do that? It's allegory. It's symbolistic speech. It's a meaning. What it means is that when God put his hip out, he no longer had desires for this world. You know, because in the old days, the hip was symbolic. Look at a girl's hip; it's attractive. That's the desire in the man for the hip. You know, so it's symbolistic speech. But Jacob's hip was put out. You know, but what people don't understand as well is the way the book's written is that look, God loved Jacob but hated Esau. Now Esau and Jacob were brothers. Okay, Esau was the unenlightened man. Jacob was the enlightened man. They are one and the same person. Esau became enlightened and was Jacob. But then God changed his name to Israel. And Israel means those that struggle with God. And also as well, it means Isis, Ra, and El. Isis, divine feminine. Ra is the the positive aspects, the pineal gland, and El is the Hebrew word for God. So you have all these different levels of meaning for different levels of consciousness. It's very fucking clever. And but he overcame. It's the same as the story of King Saul and King David. King Saul was an asshole, and King David was good, although he did fuck it up a little bit. But King Saul was, but King Saul was David. But King Saul overcame his own lower nature and became King David, and that's what it's all about: overcoming yourself, and you will be given a new name.
All right, well, I'm gonna take a little intermission for a bathroom break real quick. I'll be right back, brother.
I'll do some singing, shall I?
Go ahead, sing.
No, fuck that. I sing like an angel, just the rest of the world doesn't appreciate it. There's some good YouTube channels out there. If you're looking for biblical truth, you need to look into the occult. Now, occult only means hidden, but you have to discern, because there is good and bad occult, as there is in every duality. There's good and bad. But you've got a channel as well by a guy called Bill Donahue. Bill's getting on now. He must be pushing 80, but he was a really smart guy. So have a look at what Bill's saying. Bill Donahue. There's an English girl. She's called Kelly Marie Kerr. That's Kelly, and then Marie minus Kerr, and she does esoteric translations of the Bible. She's got a couple of videos about the sacred secretion. It's a bit religiousy, but that doesn't matter, because the truth has been revealed, and I would recommend people seek that out. In fact, I could ask Jacob to put some links to these people, so those that want to look a bit further are more than welcome to do so. In fact, encouraged to do so. Okay, there's fuck all on TV anyway. Throw that shit out the window. Yeah, Jacob's back. Right. Jacob's back. Stop talking about him. Stop talking about Jacob. Jacob's back.
What I wanted to say was, you want to talk about how God sits on the throne and how that has to do with the brain and then the 12 cranial nerves of the 12 disciples and stuff like that, like the allegorical place of that.
Yeah, because this different levels of understanding again. Like the 12 disciples are the 12 cranial nerves of the brain, and in the human body there are 12 systems. And each nerve controls one of the 12 systems. But remember, Jesus said to the disciples, he said to them, go out in pairs into the land, because the biblical lands, okay, is your body. So he said, go out into the lands and preach the gospel. But these 12 cranial nerves, they're actually in pairs, because you've got messages going out, messages coming back in. So it's that, so these 12 then become 24, because it's 12 pairs, 24s. And in the book of Revelation, it talks about God sitting on his throne, and it's round at the back. And the 24 elders stand before God and they worship him. Now, this is referring to the cranial nerves going to God that sits on his throne, which is the brain. The cerebellum. You've got the cerebrum, Sarah Abraham, and at the back you've got the cerebellum. And the cerebellum in Latin, it's called the arbor vitae, which means the tree of life. And the tree of life was planted in the Garden of Eden, which is your brain. And you can eat from all the trees, but don't eat from this tree. This tree is this tree is knowledge of good and evil. And we did, and we're here. You've got knowledge of good and evil. Yeah. How about them apples? Do you like it? No, I'd rather have good, thank you. So, but how would you know what good is and evil is if you didn't experience it? This is why they said in some part of Genesis, uh, they will know good and evil and become like us. Let us go down there and confuse them, because anything they imagine, they will be able to do. So imaging in consciousness. And if you've got a disconnected human consciousness, then it will create this reality and everything in it, because it's disconnected. That's why Jesus said this world is Satan's, because Satan offered him everything in the desert. I'll give you this, I'll give you that, if you bow down to me. So it's all about understanding the allegory and the metaphors. So don't love anything in this world, because this world it's restricted, it's bounded, it's got laws and regulations. You can't do anything, you can't breathe, you just we know people that have got lots of money. Are they happy?
No.
They buy all these fucking toys, and the toys own them. You've got to do this, you've got to do that, paperwork. And the fact of the matter is, in this reality, you don't own anything.
No.
You buy a car. Let's say you win the money on the lottery. You go out and buy a car, but then you need a license from to own the car. So you're given permission from the government to own that vehicle. So who has the authority then? You or the owner or the government? And then you have a license to operate that machinery. And not only that, because this existence is entropic, because the states of entropy, everything falls apart. So you never have anything permanently. You're just borrowing it. You're using it for a limited period of time. And the same thing applies to your body. Yeah. My people are destroyed. They perish through lack of knowledge. That when you understand that we have a limited period of time to overcome, then you start to take things seriously, to overcome the physical realm. And then your ego can leave with the divine feminine and become part of the unified field of consciousness, which is what some people call the Akashic record. Like relationships, reincarnation is real. When you understand that you've been reincarnated, say 100 times, who's your mum and dad? Who's your children? It all becomes a bit meaningless. You see, because you just, people that have suicidal thoughts and they check out, they just reincarnate, just come straight back into the fucking nightmare again. Fuck me. They can't get away from this shit. What is this? A fucking cosmic?
That's fucked up, man. You kill yourself, you come right back to the shit that you were trying to leave.
It's like, what is this? A fucking cosmic joke that I don't fucking get. Look, energy cannot die. That's physics. That's a fact.
Mm-hmm.
Energy cannot die. And when you understand that the nervous system, the spirit is energy, then you can't die. Your ego can. It just gets eradicated, like a microchip. You get a powerful magnet, run the electromagnetic over it. You wipe the memory. Your brain, your ego, if it's attached to this physical thing, this tent that you live in, this tabernacle, if it's attached to that and doesn't realize there's a higher consciousness and doesn't become at one with that, then it just gets wiped out. It just gets cleaned off. And then the energy gets fed back into the system again. And then, da-da, I'll be back. It's been going on for thousands and thousands of years. And I was talking about the moon with the electrical discharges and plasma. All the past history, these strange artifacts that they're finding nowadays. What humanity has built in the past has just been wiped out by plasma discharges and electromagnetic energies. The Grand Canyon was not formed by the Colorado River in millions and millions of years. It's just absurd. Just look at the fucking thing. That was made in minutes, if not seconds, by electrical arcing. So I'd recommend your viewers to go and look at some of the work these scientists have done. Look at Wallace Thornhill, Thunderbolts Project, and look at their stuff. They're talking about terraforming, making mountains in minutes. And they've got scientific evidence that backs this up. And when you look at what they're showing you, this stuff is really simple. There are no massive equations. There is no math that bamboozles people. You don't have to go to school for 6 or 7 years just to understand the equations. This is simple, rational, logical truth. You look at it and you go, yeah.
So what do you think about religious people who think the earth has only been here for 6,000 years and that humans actually inhabited the earth with dinosaurs?
What would I say to them? Yeah, have fun with that. Have fun with that. Yeah, the thing is that the science that we've been taught, look on YouTube, type in 65 million year old DNA in Tyrannosaurus Rex bone. There are scientists, there's been quite a few of these finds now, that they found bones and they cut the bone open, and inside of it there's still soft material, and they could get the DNA from a T-Rex.
Mitochondrial DNA more than likely.
Yeah, it doesn't matter. DNA, look, it was 65 million years old. Come on. Somebody explain that to me. How did something that was in a bone for 65 million years, come on, 65 million years? This is fucking scientists. So people are asking the scientists the question, how does DNA survive that long? Come on. Look, the police investigate a homicide or a rape allegation, and they can't find the sperm on a fucking bedsheet after 3 weeks.
Years.
And you're talking DNA after 65 million? Give me a fucking break. So what's the problem here? Is there something fundamentally wrong with what they call settled science? Or were the dinosaurs eradicated? A lot closer in our current history than we've been led to believe. I don't know. But
some people don't even believe dinosaurs existed.
Yeah, I'm aware of that. I've seen the theories about it. But this is another thing. A lot of the theory of evolution, it's a theory, which means you have to believe in it. The theory of relativity, it's a theory, which means you have to believe in it. Everything that settled science professes, you have to believe in. When you look at the Thunderbolts Project and what they're showing you, and the way they're correlating mythology and old cultural story, all this stuff, and Velikovsky's book, and you start to look at it and go, fucking hell, man, this makes more sense than the shit they taught me in school. They run electrical experiments to show how things like the Grand Canyon are formed. They show how the craters are formed on the moon by electrical discharges. And you can watch a video for 20 minutes, and it explains it quickly and simply, and there's no head scratching. It's just really simple. Look, the truth is always simple, but it's a bit of a red pill. Sometimes it takes a bit of swallowing. But you've got to fight through that, because being a red pillar is about fighting through. It's about getting through your own cognitive dissonance, and then you start to look at things differently. That's what I would suggest people do.
So the next question I want to ask you is, why did you decide to delete your videos from your channel, and what direction will you be putting your channel? What direction will you be bringing your channel into in the future?
Okay. Why did I delete my first channel? None of your fucking business, Jacob. Fuck you. No, I'm only joking. Because it was. I'm a kind of confrontational character anyway, but it was just too confrontational. Okay. The information I had on the old channel will come on the new channel. Okay. It will come back. It's not gone forever. But this time on my new channel, I've disabled the comments. My email address is there. I'm not hiding. Look, here I am. So people can email me and stuff. And I don't have all the answers, but I can assist. Why have I deleted the comments? Because I'm not going to get drawn into debate or discussion. Now, if 1,000 people view one of my videos and 10 people get something from it, and it really helps them, then that's a massive success. But the more the merrier. But you're always going to meet the other end, which says, no, yeah, but what about this? And they want to debate everything. They want to discuss everything. I'm not into debating anymore. I'm not discussing anything anymore. I know what I know. And I can only encourage other people to own knowledge and to look at things themselves and make their own realization. Look, when you know, then you will be upright in truth. Because when you know, they can't take that away from you. You know, and when you know, you can't go back to living the lie, because then you're selling yourself down the river. Now, only a sociopath would do that, and people have done it. So, but and I didn't want to get drawn into the duality. So I've got my little channel. It's very simple. I say what I want to say. I chuck it out there, and the people can take it and chew the cud like a clean animal. That's it. And that's the reason I did that.
Well, yeah, and I mean, from what I've seen, I mean, you've never tried to push me or you just gave me information and practical application and said, try it yourself. Go find it for yourself. Go own it for yourself. Don't take anything that I say at face value and just hold it as a truth. Go look yourself. And I think that's important for everyone to do. Don't just take the stuff that we say and just take it on it. Go find out for yourself. Look.
Because that's, you know, you can say you know something, which is okay, but then when you experience it, then you own it. Then it's completely different. You know, there's far too many people that say they know, but they have no experience, which means they don't know, because experience and knowing the two, you know, are separate entities. But you know, one thing I will stress is that, you know, I'm still on the journey as well.
Yeah.
You know, I'm still growing. I've still got things I need to do. You know, so you know, I'm not leading. I'm just sharing what I know. And the more people that do that, it will spread. You know, you'll get to the stage where you might be walking down the high street, and you meet somebody you haven't seen for a few years, and you start chatting, and you mention the sacred secretion from the brain, and they say, "Yeah, I watched a video on that about a couple of weeks ago." You know, this, when everybody knows this, when this becomes household knowledge, then the government and the churches and all the rest of the shit, it just falls away, because it's just a nonsense. It's meaningless. It's an illusion. It's pathetic.
I got a good one for you. I think this is gonna be something you're gonna enjoy. So when a person comes to the realization that everything is bullshit, it's all a program. We've all been programmed. People are fucked in general. Most people are never gonna wake up. They're just gonna follow this thing out for the rest of their life. How does a conscious woke person find joy in their life and a point to it when he knows everything is bullshit?
No, you don't. There's indifference.
That's a good answer.
It's just indifference, you know. But this is why, you know, that odd character, man. When you get into it and you start to understand what he's really saying, then you really get it. You know, he was walking along, you know, like he did in his little leather sandals or whatever, and some bloke ran up to him. Yeah, hey, teacher, can I follow you? He said, yeah, come along. Yeah, but first I've got to bury my dad.
Let the dead bury the dead.
There you go. That's none of my business, said Kermit the Frog, drinking his cup of tea. You know, you've seen the meme. It's none of my business. This is why that character Jesus said, let the sinner keep on sinning. Just let them. It's, you know, for those with ears to hear and eyes to see. It's not for everyone. You know, the called out. You know, I've come for the Israelites. You know, so, you know, it's you know, like it's described as a harvest. You know, and it's sorting the wheat from the chaff. You know, but you could look internally and say, well, that's a bad thought, so that's chaff. I'll throw that in the fire. But that's a good thought. I'll store that for later. Or being a good shepherd. That's a sheep. A sheep's a harmless thought. I'll keep that. Oh, but that's a goat. That's an unruly thought. I'll separate the sheep from the goats because I don't want the goats upsetting my sheep. So this is about being an internal shepherd. But as above, so below, as within, so without. So whatever happens in here will manifest out there. It's a hologram. It's a feedback loop. You see? See, but it's not directed by the ego. Because remember, in the Bible and all the other Vedic, the texts, the character evil has to report to God and get permission. He's called the accuser in the Jewish traditions because he accuses all the time. Oh, look at this, look at that. So it's he's controlled, but he doesn't know he's being controlled. You see, in your own life, the ego. In the when the ego gets, when you get too cocky, something always happens in life that sits you on your ass, and you realize you're not as big as you think you are.
Yeah.
People call that karma. Other people call it,
Reap what you sow.
pardon me.
Reap what you sow.
Yeah, as well. But other people call it, a cosmic intervention. Somebody's teaching you a lesson from higher. But few people will realize that. So. But it's all very interesting to think about, to ponder. The instructions, like I referred to it a moment ago. Like in the Bible, it talks about clean animals and dirty animals. It talks about a pig is a filthy animal. Don't eat like a pig, or don't eat pigs. But if you're a conscious human being, you'll watch a pig eat, because a pig just devours everything. It eats shit.
No.
But a pig is designed to. It's physiologically designed to eat those things. But when humans eat like pigs, and we're not talking about the physical act of eating, we're talking about the spiritual act, the consciousness, the act of eating rubbish, eating shit. Like religious dogma is shit. So the people that attend churches are spiritual pigs. Because they don't chew the cud like a clean animal. It's like a clean animal will take the information in, he'll think about it, and he'll chew the cud, and then he'll put it away and then bring it back up and think about it. So what's a clean animal? It's contemplating the information, and then when it's digested the information, then it responds to the information. Whereas pigs don't. They don't respond to anything. Look, I've tried speaking to religious people about this stuff. It's easier talking to a brick. It just doesn't come in. It bounces off them. They are unconscious, as Jesus referred to them. They are dead. There's no life in them. There's no spirit. There's no consciousness. So what do? Well, let God sort them out. Send them the tribulation, which comes from the word tribune, which is a board, and they use the board and it crushes the wheat to remove the husks. And so being crushed, it's a violent act, and the tribulation will be violent, incredibly violent. Still, it is what it is, and it's not my will; it's the Father's will.
So you want to talk about the difference between the Father and God?
Excuse me. Oh, yeah. Right. The Old Testament God, he says, I create good and I create evil. And when you understand that your brain is God, and then we also accept the fact that our brain can manifest good and evil in our lives. We only have to look at what we've done in our own lives to reflect on that, to understand how good and evil we can be. The character Jesus always said that his Father is good. And when you understand that the Father, which is pure energy, he's not here. He's not here because things die. It's entropy. The energy tails off. It only has a specific amount of energy for a certain period of time. This is why men and women should not be having the orgasm or chucking their seed on the floor, because you're throwing your life energy away. So, but he's coming back. But all of those, that when he comes back, this will be that electrical storm that the Thunderbolts project alludes to. Everything gets fragged. It gets turned to dust. So It's the realization that the science calls it the unified field, or unified field consciousness, because everything is conscious. But here we have the collective ego consciousness of God. But outside of this realm is the collective unified field consciousness of the Father. There you go. If that makes sense to some people, this is why people get confused. And there's two gods in the Bible. Yeah, and that's why there's a New Testament. You know, but you mustn't take the book literally. It's explaining things to you scientifically, but it's also spiritual. It's about consciousness. Some things can't be explained very well, but when you clean your house, your consciousness rises, and then information comes to you. This is why I say to you, Jacob, you will be shown. It will be subtle, really subtle. You've got to pay attention, and when it starts happening, you'll like, what the, how the fuck, it will confuse you, but then you'll start to settle with it, and then it kind of becomes normal.
But he said the meat is the most important thing out of all of it. He said, as long as you eat meat, you'll never go there.
Well, no, there are no meat eaters in heaven in higher consciousness. There are no religious people in higher consciousness. There are no patriots. There are no politicians in heaven. None. Forget it. They ain't there. They don't make it because they're not sovereign. Politicians suppress others. So do the church. They don't get invited. They're taking advantage of other people. That ain't right.
Well, one thing that I noticed, and I'm definitely not going to bash church or whatever, because I mean, if it works for some people,
well, it's not about bashing church. The truth is what it is. 2,000 years we've had the church, and what's it got us? Going to a church today, none of them really talk about the revelation, and what they do talk about, they don't understand. They don't understand anything. They don't want to understand anything. If you try and change their way of thinking, they'll attack you. This is why Jesus said, "Don't throw pearls to pigs," because they will trample them underfoot and turn on you. A pearl is obviously wisdom.
Yeah. What I noticed about them is it's usually a bunch of people telling other people how to live that don't live the way they're telling other people how to live.
Yeah, hypocrites.
Yeah.
Well, this is why they use sin, and they point their shit-stained fingers at everybody. Oh, it's your fault. It's your fault. You're a sinner. No, everybody's a sinner. It says that through the book. Even the Apostle John, when he was on the mountain in Patmos, he wrote the book of the book of Revelation, and he says, "I must decrease, he must increase." So he's talking about his own consciousness decreasing and the higher consciousness increasing, his own Jesus within. That's what he's talking about. So even he's alluding to the fact that he was a sinner, he missed the mark, but he's overcoming himself to hit the mark, which is the seventh gland, the pineal gland, the third eye, which Jacob named that mountain. He named the mountain Peniel. So it's all there, but the religious people they're not aware. Look, I attended a Bible study group this is about 2.5 years ago, and I sat down with them, with Germans, and but it's like this all over the world, and I went 2 or 3 times. But they've got the Bible, and they've got another book, and okay, that's the Bible. What's that book? Oh, that's the book that helps us study this book. Well, who wrote that? Well, that's from the Lutheran Church. Well, I thought we were studying the Bible. Yeah, we are. Then why? No, we're not. We're studying the Lutheran dogma book to help us do
the Bible.
That's called indoctrination.
Yeah.
You get the book yourself, okay, and you open it and you read it a little bit by little bit. Don't read it like it's 50 Shades of shit. It's not a novel. Okay, it's 66 books, and you read each one and you try to understand it, and it does change your consciousness when you start to think about it. But then we have this wonderful thing called the internet. And you can go onto the internet and you can use it for good. And you can type in Bible esoterics, biblical allegory, and the information's there. But you have to discern, because some of it isn't quite right. But you've got, as the individual, got to bring the picture together to realize the big picture. That's what it's all about. And that's an internal realization. It's not, when you know. It's not something you can give away. Look, there's people that say, "Oh, they had these secret schools," and and all the books were burnt. They didn't have any books. This is not. See, when you know this information, you know it. You don't need to write it down. There's nothing, it's, you don't need to have massive books. You just know it. The secret schools or the mystics, they didn't have books because they didn't fucking need them. It became, but all that, that's why the Catholic Church in the Middle Ages killed all those people, the Waldensians and everything, wiped them out, because there was a rise of Gnosticism. Gnostic means knowledge, gnosis, wiped them out, purged them. And then we had the Renaissance, which was, another wave of higher consciousness in humanity. That got quickly suppressed. Revolutions and things. It's been the suppression of mankind's divine spirit has been going on for thousands of years, and it's at the foot, and the blame for it lies at the foot of religion and politics.
All right, I'll be right back. I got another question for you.
Yeah, okay, man.
So do you believe that there's an elite group of malevolent people out there that are cahoots with each other, that is trying to like control everybody and hold the whole world down and destroy everyone?
I don't believe anything, Jacob, I know. But I've said this before. What difference does it make?
None.
People go on about, but the elite, the powers that be. Fuck them. Because when you go within and you overcome within, what the fuck are they going to do about it? What, confiscate your house? Well, the killing hasn't started yet. But that's why, in the book of Revelation, the Father returns, because if he doesn't, there'll be no flesh left. It's but this is where other people like Bill, he says, but people having their head chopped off is referring to the ego. Yeah, it is. People having their head chopped off is ego death. That's okay. I get that as well. But when it states there will be no flesh left, well, that's a bit of a combat indicator for me. That means there will be hardly any flesh left. And then you've got the prophecies of the asteroid. They call it wormwood in the Bible, but in the Greek translation, the word was apinthos, which doesn't mean anything. But then NASA call it Apophis, so it's pretty close. Yeah, close enough. Yeah, close enough to pay attention. So what the elites are doing. Why are they got all these wars? Why are they going for a third world war? Well, to make sure that as few people ascend as possible. That's the entire purpose of the tribulation the last 7 years, is to get humanity to wake up. Look, Jesus said, what does it serve a man to inherit the earth but lose his soul? Look, you can look at that in several ways. To inherit the earth, the physical world. Well, we've done that. We've inherited the earth. That's a fact. Okay, it lies at our feet. But there's a higher meaning. You've inherited the earth. Your body is the earth. Yeah? You've inherited it. You've got it. Don't lose your soul. Your soul is your ego, your intellect. But when your body perishes, your ego intellect will be known by the mother and father. This is why it says in the 10 commandments. They're not even commandments, they're instructions. And the instruction is honor your mother and father. Now, if your mother and father were aberrations, if they were disgusting people, drug addicts, whatever, if they victimized you and sexually harassed you or abused you, how and you go and speak to a preacher, I can't, the commandment, honor your mother and father, I can't do that. Oh, you must forgive them. fuck off. Get on your high horse, dickhead. Look, the mother and father, the mother is the divine feminine. Okay, and the father is obviously the father, the unified field consciousness. It's got nothing to do with your physical mother and father, nothing. And these are all religious misconceptions. This is the veneer of religious shit that's been smeared over the truth. And this is why you need to get that yeast out of your house, clean it out.
So
But what's bizarre?
What about aliens?
Yeah, well, it's an egregore. It's a thought form that whatever they imagine will be possible for them. So if the collective human ego is steered subliminally or even consciously into believe a particular thing, then it will believe that thing. Yeah. Look, the X-Files. The truth is out there. Remember the TV program?
Mm-hmm.
No, it isn't. It's in here. Yeah. You see how they turn everything around. Now, did Fox Mulder and Scully or whatever their names were they aware of this deception? Probably not. They're just pawns in the game. But the world is a stage. This is why it's in the Bible. Do not trust any man. Well, no, do not trust a man. It means do not trust the physical. It doesn't mean don't trust a man. That's low consciousness. But higher consciousness understands it as don't trust anything physical. You see? So, which kind of like, and then Jesus says, do not love the world or anything in it because you're not of it. Then you start to get to think about these things. What am I being told here? Well, the instructions are pretty clear. They're not really that ambiguous. But if you go into church doctrine, they're ambiguous as fuck. But the doctrine's pretty simple. Okay, there you go.
All right. Well, you got anything else that what you would like to add, or you feel like you covered thing? Anything else you want to cover?
Yeah, there's loads of things to talk about. How long has that been? Hour and a half now, isn't it?
Mm-hmm.
It's probably long enough.
I'm out of questions, so I mean, anything that you want to talk about, it's your interview, it's your floor.
What I would say to anybody that's listening to this, okay, MGTOW, male, female, doesn't matter. What I would say is that when you internally realize or are starting to realize that you are a sovereign individual, a sovereign piece of something much, much bigger than you, that can never be separated, because because separation is the illusion. There is no separation. And that's what you need to be going for. And some of you might be thinking, oh, some of the stuff he said sounds about right. Some of the stuff he says, that sounds really fucked up. Start thinking about these things. Chew the cud. Do your own research. Own it. And then you'll start to see things differently. Because the truth is there, right in front of everybody's face. Okay? There's clues and symbols in the physical world. But the truth is internal, right before your eyes. And it's the pineal gland, but inside, in front of your eyes, you see, looking inwards. But this is like a holographic feedback loop. And if you tell everybody that aliens exist and everyone believes aliens exist, then they will. That's how powerful the human mind is, especially collectively. Okay, but there you go. So that's it.
All right. Well, I guess I'll turn this around and do this. You got any questions for me or anything you'd like to ask me?
No, Jacob. Thanks for inviting me. And hello to Colt. How you doing, Colt? Still listen to your stuff. No, I'm good, mate. Thanks for the invite, Jacob. Been interesting.
Definitely, man. We'll be looking out for your content, and we will talk soon, bro. Thank you. I appreciate the time.
Okay, bro. You take care of yourselves.
You too, my brother. Have a good one.
Bye now.